The combat in God of War Ragnarok has been massively expanded upon, but there's also a twist. There's almost 4 minutes of brand new gameplay on the PS5 shown by Sony, tons of new details to go over, and a first look at how awesome, and I might even say useful, Atreus is going to be compared to 2018. So let's dive right in with all the info, and a sub to the channel would be awesome. Also, to mark the moment, you can take part in my God of War Ragnarok giveaway. Our recent Gotham Knights one just ended, so congrats to the winner. All you have to do is to be a subscriber of the channel, leave a like on this video, and follow the links in the description box down below. But the new gameplay shows a lot of brand new enemies just in the starting hours, as Santa Monica Studios added a lot more mini-bosses, bigger creatures, and higher enemy variety for every of the 9 realms added. So human raiders, we know that these are the enemies starting in God of War Ragnarok that we get to fight in the Wild Woods. There's at least 2 types of them we can see in the gameplay preview, including the melee ones wielding axes, but there's also scenes with bowmen later on that are likely the ranged ones. They are likely the cannon fodder to replace the Draugr enemies we had from the previous games in the starting minutes. We also have the White Elves. I really like the design of these. We see them in the Alfheim gameplay shots. Unlike their Dark Elves counterparts, these oftentimes dual wield a pair of curved swords that they seem to be capable of imbuing with wind magic for extra damage. Not only can this make some of their attacks unblockable, but they can also unleash the wind magic from far away as a form of ranged damage attacks. I have to wonder though why they chose to be hostile, given the fact that we saved and even gave them the light back in the previous game. One theory is that in doing so, we actually unknowingly helped speed up the coming of Ragnarok, which now causes chaos on all the 9 realms. One thing to note is by the time we hit Alfheim, Tyr will also be one of our companions, and we can even see him taking part in combat, attacking enemies, and even defeating some of them in some of these shots. So I'm not sure if the theory about Kratos giving his Blades of Chaos to Tyr makes any sense now, given the fact that in none of these shots is he seen renouncing them, but that could still be an option maybe later on. Though I will say that Atreus was one of the major changes in God of War Ragnarok, and there's gonna be much more expanded companion actions this time around. We can see Atreus moving more independently from his father and being way more active in combat situations. What I really like is that he can now use his bow to grapple onto some of these high vantage points instead of constantly relying on his father to push him up. In combat, he's even more engaged this time around, and yeah, now he will use his bow to imbue it with magic powers and then use it as a form of melee weapon to defeat his enemies. This is also a great way to highlight the differences in combat styles between father and son, with Atreus adopting a more agile and acrobatic pattern of attacks compared to his father. Also, here's a new shot of Atreus using his new summon mount. Just like the last time, it seems to be a perfect way to stun and attack random enemies in packs, especially when they tend to group up a lot. Santa Monica Studios also confirmed there's way more collaborations between the two during puzzle moments, and we know from previous gameplays that puzzles will be a much more varied and engaging part of the gameplay, with a lot more tools now being needed to solve them than ever before. But Ragnarok adds way more verticality to combat, and even more so when it comes to the weapons we get to use, not just the axe. One of them is the free fall, so whenever you jump with Kratos off a ledge, you can now follow up with a slam down attack on any enemy unlucky enough to find themselves below you. We can see the same moves being performed not just with the Leviathan axe, but also with the fists, which is still powerful enough to throw enemies back. I'm most excited though for the Blades of Chaos having a similar move. They unleash an AoE fire explosion at the point of impact following such a jump, which is awesome because there's now more reasons to continue using them for longer, as they also serve as a second new functionality for traversal, that of grabbing ledges to reach higher up platforms and vantage points. This new traversal mechanic should also make Kratos feel significantly more mobile than ever before, and just a bit more agile than how he was compared to 2018. In fact, Sony Santa Monica took a lot of inspiration from the older God of War games when it comes to implementing more combos for each weapon and give their skill trees more depth than ever before. Like for example, this new attack chain with the Blades of Chaos, where Kratos spins and flails his weapons, to finish off this Grimm's enemies, but there's plenty more examples throughout the gameplay preview. In any case, I'm most excited for the mini-boss and large enemy variety, and we have a first look at the fight against Dreki, one of the early on mini-bosses we get to fight in Ragnarok, and it looks like her main attack consists of supercharged electricity fields that she can both unleash from the center of her body, but she can also leave some of these behind, as seen from the effects that still linger in the water a few feet back in this shot. Finally, there's also the launch bite attack we saw in some of the previous trailers that you can still parry at the right time, assuming that you do it with the proper shields, or you can take the visual cue and just dodge away to safety. As a matter of fact, God of War Ragnarok implemented a lot of audio-visual cues this time around, especially for incoming attacks, and this time around they are way better defined. For example, the expanding circle indicating an incoming attack now has a much more clear outline compared to 2018. And it's not yet clear if accessibility changes can subdue or remove them or not, but it looks like their colors can differ. Like, for example, you can have some of the parryable attacks to be colored in yellow, while the unblockable ones are coated with blue. Though it's likely the UI setting that does that can change the colors. Like, for example, in the previous game we had them with the color red, this time around they are with blue, so who knows, maybe the final version of the game will change some of that. In any case, get ready for some really awesome combo finishers. Whenever you build the stun meter and go ahead and perform a brutal takedown against enemies, now you can finish them off in way more destructive ways than ever before. First of all, Santa Monica Studios has expanded the number of animations that can play out during these moments, but now you can also choose which weapon to use when performing these takedowns. So not only can you use your bare hands like before, but you can also do ones with the chain blades, with the axe, or even with the shields. And yes, this even includes cutting enemies in pieces or in half, and it's just like overall not really advertiser friendly, so I'm going to try to like not play these too much, but totally check the video if you want to see more extensive views of how these play out. Anyway, God of War already got a couple of patches. In the past few days, it's already up to update 1.02, and for the most part, it seems that these are primarily focused on improving the state of the game and just like doing performance improvements and a few bug fixes. But one big disappointment is the fact that it won't launch with photo mode, at least not on day one, and this has been pretty much confirmed recently over on Twitter. Kind of a bummer, but here's hoping that it won't take too much after launch for photo mode to drop. In the case of New Game Plus, this wasn't confirmed or disproven yet if it's going to launch on day one, but I feel that if it were to come later, they could have probably clarified it in the same tweet, though that didn't happen. So I think that there's like strong chances that New Game Plus will indeed launch with the release of God of War Ragnarok. But this is pretty much it with the info. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.